So if I see the word hypnosis, I'm willing to bet that for, what, 90% of you, the brain immediately pulls up a very specific kind of goofy image.
Oh, absolutely. The swinging pocket watch.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
swinging watch, the guy in a sparkly vest on a Vegas stage.
And some unsuspecting accountant from the audience clucking like a chicken.
It's the ultimate cliche. But the stack of research we have today suggests that this whole image has done a massive disservice to what's actually a serious biological tool.
It's a tragedy of marketing, really. We've taken a state of hyper-focused neurological receptivity and just branded it as a parlor trick.
Right.
But if you look at the clinical data, specifically the source material we have today on what they call the Spectrix Protocol, we aren't talking about entertainment. We're talking about nervous system regulation.
And that is the pivot we need to make right at the top. We are doing a deep dive into Spectrix hypnosis today. And the sources are fascinating because they present this not as magic, but as a very structured 4-step methodology to fix what they call mind-body alignment. But before we get to the how, I want to stick with the what for a second. Because even knowing it's not a magic trick, I still have that movie trope in my head of, mind control, the Manchurian Candidate stuff.
That is the biggest barrier to entry, that fear of surrendering agency. But the Spectrix material is incredibly specific about this. They define hypnotherapy not as mind control, but as, well, the exact opposite. Yeah. They use the phrase, "you are always in the driver's seat."
Okay, see, I want to push back on that a little. Because if I'm in a state of hypnosis and I'm under, doesn't that inherently mean my critical defenses are, down?
That's the common misconception.
I mean, if the therapist suggests I should, donate my life savings to a cat charity, what's stopping me?
It's a valid fear, but it misunderstands the mechanism. When you're in a state of clinical hypnosis, you're not unconscious. You haven't been knocked out. You are in a state of deep, quiet focus. Think of it like this. Your critical faculty, the part of your brain that analyzes and judges, it's still there. It's just taking a step back. It's observing.
It's not gone.
Not at all. If a suggestion comes in that conflicts with your core moral code or your safety, like the cat charity example, that critical faculty just slams the gate shut immediately. You would just pop right out in the trance.
So the gatekeeper doesn't leave the building. He sits down in the lobby.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. He's reading a magazine, but if the alarm goes off, he's up in a second. The source material really emphasizes you can't get stuck in hypnosis.
Okay, that's good to know.
Any more than you can get stuck in a daydream. You're the one facilitating the state, not the therapist. They are the GPS. You are the driver.
I like that GPS analogy. It implies that I can choose to ignore the turn if I want to.
Precisely.
Now, the sources talk a lot about why someone would want to use this GPS in the first place. And they use a term that I think everyone listening is going to identify with immediately. Autopilot.
The autopilot problem. This is where the neuroscience gets really interesting. Our brains are fundamentally energy conservation machines.
Right.
The brain uses about 20% of the body's energy, so it is constantly looking for ways to save power. And the basal ganglia, that's the part responsible for habits and routines, it takes over.
So once you learn how to do something, like drive a car, or even argue with your spouse.
Or deal with a stressful email, yeah. The basal ganglia runs the program so the prefrontal cortex doesn't have to work so hard.
So we are literally hardwired to stop thinking about our reactions.
We are hardwired for efficiency, not necessarily for happiness.
Yeah.
And the source material claims that most of us spend the vast majority of our day reacting to stress via these autopilot settings.
And the kicker is that those settings were programmed years ago.
Usually during times of high stress or even trauma.
Yeah. This connects to that really visceral phrase they use in the text. Jagged stress responses.
Jagged is such a perfect word for it, isn't it? It refers to a cortisol spike, that is. It's sharp, it's uneven, and it doesn't resolve.
So what does that look like in real life?
Okay, so a stimulus hit, say, your boss critiques your work, the autopilot kicks in. If your autopilot was programmed, maybe as a kid, to view critique as a threat to your survival, you get a jagged physiological response.
Heart rate up, palm sweat.
Cognitive tunneling. Exactly. You aren't choosing that response. Your basal ganglia is just running an old script.
And the problem is we are running these, survival scripts in situations that aren't actually life or death.
Precisely. We are chemically cutting ourselves on our own environment, and Spectrix argues that you can't just willpower your way out of this. You can't just tell yourself, okay, I won't be stressed next time.
That's method A. the struggle.
You're fighting your own biology.
Because the autopilot is faster than the conscious mind. By the time I tell myself to calm down, the adrenaline is already in my veins.
The signal has already fired. So Spectrix proposes method B, natural evolution. Instead of fighting the reaction after it happens, you go back into the subconscious and you change the default setting.
You smooth out the jagged edge so the trigger doesn't even happen.
That's the goal.
Okay, that sounds fantastic, but that's the what. I want to get into the how, because the Spectrix Protocol claims to be different. It's not standard talk therapy or even standard hypnosis. It's a 4-layer approach.
Right.
And looking at the outline, they don't even start with the mind.
No, they don't. And that is the unique selling point here. If you go to a standard hypnotherapist, they might sit you down and immediately start the, the look at the watch induction.
Right.
Spectrix says that's a mistake. They start with step 1, breathwork.
Why? I mean, if I'm there to fix my anxiety or my bad habits, why are we spending time just breathing?
Because of the vagus nerve. This is the superhighway connecting your brain to your body. If your body is in a state of sympathetic arousal, that's fight or flight mode, your brainwave patterns are likely in high beta. You're alert, you're scanning for danger.
Okay.
In that state, the brain is biologically resistant to new information. You cannot reprogram a brain that thinks it's being hunted by a tiger.
So the breathwork isn't just relaxing in a vague sense. It's a biological key.
It's a physiological signal. By using specific breathwork patterns, like lengthening the exhale, for instance, you stimulate the vagus nerve. You physically switch the system from sympathetic to parasympathetic.
From fight or flight to rest and digest.
You're telling the bodyguard at the door, the tiger is gone. Only then will the brain let you into the building.
Okay, so we've hacked the nervous system. We're in a parasympathetic state. Step 2. This is the one where I admit my skeptical alarm went off a little. Step 2 is Reiki.
I expected that. Reiki is often where the scientific-minded listener checks out.
Right. I mean, it's described as balancing energetic flow.
Yeah.
For a protocol that talks so much about nervous systems and jagged stress, isn't this veering into the mystical?
It definitely leans into the metaphysical, but let's look at it through a utilitarian lens. Even if you don't believe in chi or universal life force, there is a really powerful mechanism at play here. It's called interoception. It's the sense of the internal state of the body. In our modern autopilot lives, we are almost entirely in our heads. We're disconnected from our bodies until something hurts.
That's true.
The Reiki session in the Spectrix Protocol, it serves as a somatic bridge. It forces the client to focus their attention on physical sensations, warmth, tingling, flow.
So it's getting you out of your prefrontal cortex and into your limbs.
It's deepening the trance, it's priming the canvas. By focusing on this energy work, you are further quieting the noise of the mind, all that static from the day, and dropping into that theta brainwave state where the deep reprogramming can actually happen.
So it's like a safety lock, making sure the body's fully on board before the heavy lifting begins.
Exact.
Okay, that makes sense. You're moving from the gross physical, the breath, to the subtle physical, which is the sensation. So now we get to the heavy lifting. Step 3, NLP and hypnosis. We've mentioned NLP a few times on this show, but we've never really unpacked it. What is neuro-linguistic programming?
NLP is essentially the user manual for the brain. It was developed in the 70s by modeling really effective therapists. And the core idea is that our reality is shaped by the language, both verbal and nonverbal, that we use to describe it.
So our map of the world isn't the world itself.
It's a representation built of words and images.
Can you give me a concrete example? Like, how does changing a word change a jagged stress response?
Sure. Let's take a common autopilot script. I have to go to work. I have to finish this report. The words have to imply a lack of choice. They imply external pressure. And that triggers a subtle threat response in the brain, a loss of agency.
I feel that. Yeah, it feels heavy.
So an NLP technique might involve what's called a reframe. In the hypnotic state, we might suggest replacing I have to with I get to or I choose to.
But I can do that right now. I could just say I choose to. Why do I need to be hypnotized for that?
Because of that critical faculty we talked about.
Ah, the guy in the lobby.
The guy in the lobby. If you say it right now, your conscious mind argues back. It says, no, you don't choose to. You have a mortgage, you idiot.
My conscious mind is very rude, by the way.
Most of ours are. But in step 3 of the protocol, because of the breath work and the Reiki, you're in that deep theta state. The critical faculty is reading his magazine. So when the therapist suggests you choose to engage with your work, the suggestion bypasses the argument.
It goes straight to the subconscious, to the basal ganglia.
It plants the seed directly into the autopilot code.
That is the distinction. It's the difference between throwing a seed on concrete versus planting it in tilled soil.
That is the perfect analogy. Step 1 and 2 are tilling the soil. Step 3 is planting the seed using all these different NLP structures, anchoring positive emotions to triggers, swishing away negative images. It's coding.
Okay, so we've breathed, we've balanced, and we've recoded the software. Are we done? Do they snap their fingers and send you out to the parking lot?
You would think so, but Spectrix argues this is where most sessions can fail. Step 4 is the closing meditation. And this isn't just a cool down, it's about integration.
Why is that necessary? If the seed is planted, isn't the job done?
Well, think about neuroplasticity. You've just temporarily rewired a connection. You've opened a new pathway. If you immediately jump up and, run into traffic or check your phone,
You flood the brain with cortisol and dopamine. You disrupt the process.
you wash the seed away before the roots can take hold.
I see.
The closing meditation is designed to seal the work. It brings you back from theta to alpha and finally to a calm beta state very slowly. It grounds the new programming into your physical body. It makes sure that when you walk out the door, you're not feeling floaty or disassociated. You're fully back, but you're running the new software.
It seems like the whole philosophy here is it's about mind-body alignment. It's not just a head game.
It can't be. You cannot treat the mind as some floating entity separate from the gut, the heart, the nerves. The jagged stress is a whole body experience, so the solution has to be a whole body protocol.
The source material makes a really interesting point toward the end. They say this isn't a session you check off a to-do list. They call it a journey.
Which is marketing speak, sure, but it also touches on the reality of neuroplasticity. You don't go to the gym once and get a six-pack.
Right.
You're remodeling the architecture of your response system. It takes repetition. It takes, as they put it, gentle guidance.
And that contrasts so sharply with how we usually try to change, which is by, beating ourselves up.
We try to hate ourselves into improvement. And biologically, that just creates more stress, which just reinforces the old habits. Evolution is a flow state. It happens when resistance is lowered. And that's what this protocol seems designed to do. Lower the resistance so change becomes inevitable rather than impossible.
It's a compelling argument for anyone out there feeling stuck in that loop. If you're listening and you feel like your autopilot is driving you off a cliff, this might be the toolkit you need.
It's certainly a more comprehensive approach than just trying harder.
So if you want to dive deeper into the Spectrix Protocol yourself, or if you want to find a practitioner, the source material directs you to their main hub. That's www.spectrixonline.com. That's SPECTRIX online.com.
And for those who prefer the analog approach, talking to a human, they list a direct line, 404-465-2718.
Again, that's spectrixonline.com or 404-465-2718.
But before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something. It's been sitting in the back of my mind.
What's that?
We spent this whole time debunking the idea that hypnosis is a trance, where we're zombies. We established that biologically, the hypnotic state is actually a moment of hyperclarity.
Right, a moment where the noise drops away and you are truly in the driver's seat, the state of highest focus.
So, if hypnosis is the moment we are truly awake, what does that make our normal daily life? That is the provocative question, isn't it? If our normal state is just autopilot, reacting blindly to jagged stress, scrolling through phones without seeing, driving without remembering the road,
then we are the ones in the trance.
Right now. In a very real neurological sense, anxiety is a form of self-hypnosis. We hypnotize ourselves with fear. We tell ourselves stories about what might happen, and our bodies react as if it is happening. That's a hallucination. That is a trance.
So Spectrix isn't putting you to sleep, it's waking you up.
It's dehypnotizing you from the stress response you've been living in for years.
That is. Wow. That is a lot to process. I think I need to go do some breath work just to handle that thought.
Just remember to lengthen the exhale.
Listeners, thank you for taking this journey with us. Check your autopilot settings today. We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Stay curious.